Hello everyone, welcome to Azure Psych, and today we're going to be talking about some of the weaknesses associated with the INTJ personality type. So a lot of the time you hear people talk about the positive traits of the INTJ, but I think it's really important to not only know what a type is typically good at, but also to know maybe some of the problem areas so you can be aware of these and maybe work towards fixing them or improving them as aspects of your personality. Let's get into it. So I think the elephant in the room in terms of INTJ weaknesses is often their kind of people skills. But unlike the types that have repressed feeling, the INTJs typically don't struggle with people in that they're going to be constantly clashing with them or arguing with people all of the time. As an introverted, irrational, dominant type, the INTJ will often find themselves kind of reclusive and shying away from most social norms and conventions and interactions with other people. So, for example, INTJs, given the choice, will often work alone instead of working with a group. And because they have this high preference for working alone and completing things on their own, they're not usually going to be able to kind of work together when they're forced to interact with other people in such a way, or they're forced to be working within a group, such as in like a college project. And this is going to be a problem that INTJs are going to need to work towards by kind of being a little bit more willing to engage in the process of working with others and these group projects. So in Gifts Differing, Briggs describes the INTJ as the most self-reliant out of all of the types. And I think that this is actually pretty true for many INTJs in that, again, they're going to want to do things on their own. So it is important for them to realize that this is not necessarily always going to be a positive personality trait, and many good things in life come from working with others in either work or relationships, things of that nature, and being able to communicate with other people without it being an issue or something that's going to be a problem for you is really important. One thing that stems from this that Briggs talks about in Gifts Differing is the idea that INTJs, because they're so self-reliant, they will often struggle to appreciate the work that others can put in, even if it's good work, because they will look towards themselves as kind of the judges of how things should be or how good something is. So it's a problem, and that INTJs need to be able to be aware of how important the contributions of others can be, and not only that, but how much it means to other people if you point out that they've done good or that they've put in a good contribution towards the thing that you're doing. So Briggs says that one of the most important developments an INTJ can make is that they need to learn the act of appreciation. And she says they need not call it feeling. It doesn't have to essentially be feeling, but learning how to appreciate what someone does for you or just the work that they put in general is a really important skill for INTJs. And you'll often find that many INTJs in their younger years, especially up until their teenage years, are not going to be very appreciative of even their friends in some cases. And this is something that many INTJs are going to have to develop. And again, it stems from that idea that they like to be self-reliant, they like to do things on their own, and if other people try to help them, they might even push back at times. But learning how to appreciate others and just give basic compliments in regard to work and relationships can go a really long way for the INTJ. INTJs are typically known for their tenacity when it comes to them working on a project or working towards a goal, anything of that nature. But what many people fail to realize, and one of the weaknesses of the INTJs, is that this tenacity typically only applies when the INTJ is working towards something that is important to them on an individual level, either through the lens of introverted intuition or introverted feeling. Which is to say that INTJs typically only employ extroverted thinking when something is subjectively important to them. And this is a problem because this means that INTJs often will underperform in areas where they feel like they're being forced to do something that they don't want to do. This is why many INTJs will underperform in school in their early years, or maybe even in their later years, if they're kind of being forced into college, something of that nature. I know I personally had that issue. I've said this many times on my channel before. I was a straight D student all the way through high school, and then once I decided what I wanted my major to be in college, once I decided what I wanted, I was a straight A student. And I think that that's really important for the INTJ to realize that they need to maybe even start putting forth effort on things that aren't entirely important to them. And it's okay to have to do this stuff every now and then just to get by. Now, it's certainly something that if I could go back and change, I would have maybe worked a little bit harder in high school. I would have put in more effort in some things that I didn't put effort in. And I think it's important for INTJs overall to kind of try to work and realize that not everything is going to be personally important to you, and you have to do things that you don't want to do occasionally. And overall, working towards these things that you don't want to do can be beneficial to you overall in life. Now, one of the problems that is commonly associated with the INTJ is their kind of impulse control when it comes to extroverted sensing, their repressed function, which is to say that you might find that INTJs in times of stress or depression will resort to impulsive kind of binging of sensory pleasures. This could be food, alcohol, it could be something, intimate, things of that nature. Now, this is a common problem associated with the INTJ, and the best way for INTJs to deal with this is to kind of deal with or engage with extroverted sensing in a healthy manner instead of resorting to some sort of unhealthy escape via extroverted sensing. So essentially, if you're an INTJ and you're in a bad place, maybe going for a walk, exercising, these kinds of things are going to be very beneficial to you as a type with repressed extroverted sensing. Another issue associated with being a repressed sensing type is the fact that INTJs are usually going to struggle to pay attention to details and kind of the finer points of things, or the facts that make up the overall large concept that they're interested in. Oftentimes, INTJs will be so interested in the overall concept or project that they're working in that they're going to want to push as hard as they can for completion of this project, but in doing this, they will often find that they're going to be missing the details along the way that make up the overall thing, which is to say that, they see the forest for the forest and they don't see the trees that make up the forest. And this is an issue because if you don't look and see the details when those details need to have attention paid to them, this can be a really big issue. Think of something like working at NASA. If you're working on some sort of spacecraft, do you know how much attention and detail goes into working on a spacecraft or something that's going to be sent into space at NASA? They check and recheck and recheck and recheck. They have multiple teams who do all of this. And I bet you that there's many, many sensing types who work at NASA, and they are absolutely essential because of this. And it's important for INTJs to occasionally realize that they need to stop and pay attention to these details if they want to succeed in some of the more difficult and challenging places in life. Finally, in terms of self-care, one of the things that INTJs are typically going to struggle with is general bodily maintenance. And all of the intuitive types tend to struggle with this, whether they're extroverted intuitives or introverted intuitives. They're not going to be very good at taking care of their own body, and they're going to be having to put in conscious effort towards doing this. It's not going to be something that comes natural to them. So, for example, hygiene routines are something that I personally struggle with. It's something that I really need to get on. But weight loss was something that was very important to me. I know some of you may know about my weight loss journey from a few years back, but taking care of my body in terms of weight, these are all things that are hard and not going to be easy for many of the intuitive dominant types. Just the general day-to-day sensory things that need to be taken care of. Whether it's like making your bed, keeping your environment clean, taking care of your own body, managing your weight. These are all things that are going to be hard for many INTJs, and it's something that they're going to have to put conscious effort into. Now, as kind of Jung describes it, you're not going to find INTJs who are going to be masters of these things. It's not going to be anything that ever comes natural to them. And that's why he uses the term consciously aware. You need to be consciously aware of the issues of your repressed function so you can maintain the issues that they are placing into your life, the problems that they're causing, essentially. So if you're an INTJ, try to be aware of the fact that you are not doing these things that you need to be doing daily, and some of these things are really important to you as a human being. If your body stops functioning, well, then that's it. You only get one. So it's important to make sure that you take care of your own body as an INTJ, and as well, take care of your environment as well. All right, everybody, those are some of the main weaknesses of the INTJ personality type, and of course I didn't cover everything, but those are the ones that stood out to me the most as an individual, and some of the ones that I struggled with growing up throughout my life, and things that I'm still working on as an individual. So it's important for you to look at your own type and say, hey, these are my weaknesses, and these are the things that I should be working on. Because while it's nice to know your type and say, yay, I'm good at these things, it's also just as important, if not more important, to say these are the things that I'm bad at that I should be working on as an individual. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you are an INTJ and you know of any weaknesses that I forgot to mention in this video, please let me know down in the comment section below. I would like to remind everybody that I do have personality typing sessions available at my website at sursac.com if you're interested in working with me to find out what your personality type is and what that means for you. This has been Asura at Sursac. Have a good one.